All right, black and white sports supporters. Well, we're going to talk about this DiJonai Carrington non-foul heard around the world. I haven't seen backlash like this, and trust me, Caitlin Clark, there's been a lot of backlash around her this season, but nothing like this since Kennedy Carter called her a bitch and then, of course, slammed her to the ground during I think it was the first Chicago Sky game, right? Well, of course, at this point, we've all seen the foul. Well, actually, it's a non-foul at this point, and I don't like that angle.
This is the kind of moment that leaves everyone in the arena breathless. The crowd, the players, the coaches, no one could believe the incident that just unfolded. In their first playoff encounter matchups of the WNBA season, DiJonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark rammed into each other in what can only be described as a moment that could change the course of both players' future. Fans stared in disbelief as the intensity of the game took a violent turn. Carrington, known for her fierce approach to games, went head-to-head with the league's newest sensation, Caitlin Clark, in what started as routine defense, but quickly grew into something far more intense. And now, the important question that everyone is eagerly waiting to see answered is, will DiJonai Carrington be suspended for what some are calling a massive assault on Caitlin Clark?
In the play with your eye, what would you say to the crowd of people that think a hit like that was intentional and maybe even warrants a suspension?
During the Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever Game 1 of the playoffs, early in the first quarter, Caitlin Clark was poked in the eye on this play here by DiJonai Carrington.
Did you know that over 98% of viewers enjoy our videos without subscribing? It won't cost you anything, but it makes a world of difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Awesome. Thank you. Now, let's jump back into the video. This wasn't just any ordinary game. From the start, it was clear that hostility between these two teams were at its peak. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's new face of dominance, came into the game as the player to watch. With her signature deep three-pointers and laser-focused intensity, Clark is not just a phenom, she's already reshaping the way the league and these played, but with her brilliance comes a price.
Boston and Jones to jump it up. Indiana fighting for its season. Connecticut looking to close things out tonight, and here we go.
They're hoping that can discourage Alyssa Thomas from making some of her great passes.
No one picks up Clark, who cans the three. Rebound flagged down by Clark. Indiana wants to run, that's why Mitchell serves it in on the dime from Caitlin Clark. Another rebound for Clark, already her fourth. Clark zipping up the floor. Mitchell's three is good. Here's Carrington. Nice pass. Burton in the corner. Connects. 8-point Connecticut lead. Here's Clark looking to take Burton. Clark inside, banks it.
DiJonai Carrington, on the other hand, is known for her raw power. While she may not have the same skills as Clark, her presence on the court is profound in every game. She's the kind of player who does the dirty work, battling for rebounds, setting hard screens, and not backing down from any challenge. So when these two forces met as the game heated up, the result was unavoidable. However, nobody thought it would develop to this extent. What began as a normal encounter quickly transformed into a heated clash. Carrington, fiercely guarding Clark, took things too far, at least that's what it looked like from the stands. And now, the league is faced with a big decision to make. Does Carrington's play warrant a suspension?
7 seconds for the Fever. Down by 18, and Clark is stripped. 1 second for Carrington. Lays it in at the horn.
Here is Burton, and it's knocked away by McBride. Kayla McBride, the defensive play blocked by Carrington hard, and
Burton, a three. Off the mark. Carrington lays it in.
Extra pass by Carrington. Harris, no. Carrington is there. More second chance points for the Suns.
So important because it allows her to understand which way she's going to be open. She is so smart with all of her moves in the paint.
46 points in the paint for Connecticut.
Over to Nelson Adoda, but into the arms and the hands of Carter. Kennedy Carter off to the races, and Carrington chased her down.
For those who weren't watching live, the incident happened like this. Caitlin Clark, moving off a screen, positioned herself about 30 yards from the basket. As she tried to lay a pass to a teammate, Carrington also made her move, both players reaching for the ball in midair. There wasn't much body contact, just a brush of Carrington's hand against Clark's face as she threw the ball. Against Clark's face as she threw the ball. From the angle of the cameras, it's obvious that this brush of hand was the point of contention. But what baffled many spectators was that the referees did not call a foul or blow the whistle. The incident on the court sparked heated discussion and debate among fans, analysts, and players alike. As Caitlin Clark fell to the ground, visibly in pain after the brush, the entire environment shifted dramatically. Many believed that such a collision warranted at least a foul call, given the physical nature of the play. Initial responses ranged from concern for Clark's well-being to irritation directed to the referees for their non-call. Teammates gathered around Clark, visibly shaken about her fall, while Carrington stood several feet away, unconcerned. This disparity in reactions led to criticism of how officials handled the situation, with some suggesting that the lack of a foul call undermined the principles about the standards of player safety and contact in the game.
But sometimes when things get put into slow motion, they look a lot worse. And there's an angle floating around out there that at least puts into question whether this was an accident or not. Certainly, whether it was an accident or not shows you how hard the contact was. Carrington almost dives into her eye there. That's what makes it seem a little strange, is like the motion of her hand. That's the kind of motion one would make if they were trying to poke somebody in the eye and make it look like they were going after the ball. I mean, that's a possibility, certainly. I'm not saying
Replay showed the intensity of the moment, raising the question of whether Carrington's actions were a normal part of the game or something more sinister. Was this just a misguided attempt at aggression, or did Carrington inadvertently step over the line? In the moments after the incident, the biggest concern on everyone's mind was Caitlin Clark's health. As she lay on the floor, the extent of her injuries was uncertain. The arena hushed, a stark contrast to the roaring energy just moments before. Clark, known for her resilience, eventually got back on her feet, but signs of pain were unmistakable. While she fought to stay in the game, it was clear that the hit had affected her. Fans across social media expressed their worries. Some speculated about the seriousness of the injury. Was it a sprain, a bruise, or something more serious? As the game progresses, Clark's movements seem limited. Her usual explosive drives were missing, and her sharp shooting lacked its typical precision. For the first time in what felt like ages, the unstoppable Caitlin Clark appeared vulnerable. And with each passing minute, the fear grew. Could this incident cost her the playoffs?
Look, I'm not pissed to the point where I'm annoyed and I'm going to call people out their names, or especially people that I love, like the person I'm about to talk about in a few minutes. She struggled with physical defense she's faced at the professional level and voiced frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with." That's what Caitlin Clark said, that it was a cheap shot. It was not a basketball play. She should have been ejected, number one. Number two, there should have been a fine that was incurred thereafter. Number three, not to say that there won't be or hasn't been at this moment in time, I don't know of one. I know the team was fined for media availability purposes because people weren't available to talk.
Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the WNBA.
Did you see what happened to Caitlin Clark? The WNBA superstar just got hit with a brutal eye poke from DiJonai Carrington. Now everyone's wondering, was it on purpose? And why didn't the refs call it? This incident is shaking up the entire league.
It's important that we point this out. One of the things that I brought up this morning in talking about Caitlin Clark is that some of the players, you want to use the word jealousy, fine. You want to use the word envy, fine.
Picture this. It's a high-stakes playoff game. The crowd's...
Carrington's reputation has always been that of a tough, hard-nosed player. Her style of play isn't about resilience over finesse, it's about toughness. She's the kind of player every coach wants on their team, but hates to play against. But after this incident, many are questioning whether Carrington's physicality has crossed the line. In her professional journey, Carrington is known for her fearless competitiveness. Hard fouls, tough screens, and bruising defense are part of her arsenal. But this incident with Caitlin Clark was viewed as crossing a line. For some, Carrington's aggressive style is simply part of what makes the game interesting. Basketball, especially at the professional level, is an intense sport. Players like Carrington excel in challenging their rivals. On the other hand, this was more than just physicality, it was a threat to safety. Critics argue that Carrington's play was reckless, and that her actions could have resulted in far more significant harm. With player safety becoming an increasingly important issue in the league, could this be the moment that prompts the WNBA to enact stricter rules regarding aggressive play?
Bonner, a deep three, short. Carrington there to clean it up. Makes those kind of hustle plays. Working behind Boston. Clark around the hedge. Tried to sneak it into Boston, wasn't there. Clark turns it over. Sixth for Indiana. Carrington in transition, cashes in. Are correct on a challenge, you do get another. Carrington drains the three. DiJonai.
Banham recognizing her defender went under.
Now Carrington picks Clark's pocket and lays it in. 9-point Sun lead. The debut of Caitlin Clark. She has struggled so far tonight. Carrington gets...
Now, what's on everyone's mind is this. Will DiJonai Carrington be suspended for her actions? The WNBA has a clear set of regulations about player conduct, and they do not overlook physical confrontations. But the decision to suspend a player, especially for a prominent player like Carrington, isn't made lightly. The league has a history of enforcing suspensions for incidents of this nature. The severity of the action, the intent behind it, and the impact on the opposing player are all factors that will be considered. If the league finally comes out to say that Carrington's actions were deliberate and posed a risk, a suspension may be on the horizon.
The Indiana Fever fell to the Connecticut Sun in a pretty much lopsided game, but everybody is talking about the dirty play that DiJonai Carrington had on Caitlin Clark, and it's obvious that she doesn't like Caitlin Clark, and it's stemming from Nalissa Smith. I'm telling y'all, she's on the team and she's talking a lot of noise about Caitlin Clark, and it's just all bad. She needs to go, but it's a terrible play that happened.
But how long would that suspension be? Could it be just a game or two, or are we looking at something more permanent? For Carrington, who is a key player for her team, a suspension could be devastating not just for her, but for the team's playoff hopes. And for Clark, any missed game due to injury would be a major blow to her team's success. Following the incident, social media lit up with reactions. Fans of both players took to Twitter, Instagram, and every platform in between to voice their opinions. Some defended Carrington, arguing that basketball is a physical sport and that Clark was simply caught in a rough exchange. Others, however, were calling for quick action, demanding that Carrington be suspended for what they viewed as an intentional assault. The hashtags Justice for Clark and Suspend Carrington rapidly gained traction, with thousands of posts flooding the internet. Analysts weighed in, too, with some calling for calm and others stoking the flame of discord. It's clear that this moment has catalyzed into an intense debate not just about this game, but about the nature of physicality in women's basketball.
You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, the fallout surrounding the eye gouge heard around the world on Sunday during the playoff game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. The fallout continues. And one thing has surfaced, and it's a pretty big indictment, pretty incriminating of what it is DiJonai Carrington's really about. A lot of people feel like what happened on Sunday was a continuation of potential racial hate. She recently talked about how nasty Indiana Fever fans were. Let's be real, she's talking about Caitlin Clark fans. Well, when you conduct yourself as a scumbag on the basketball court, that's not in the streets. You're not going to get met with a bunch of high fives and a bunch of warm reception from any fan base. You're not going to get that. Right?
But beyond the uproar of fans, there's a deeper question to consider. How does this incident affect the image of both players? Will Clark be seen as a victim, or will this only add to her rising profile? And for Carrington, will she be able to rewrite her name in clean sheets, or will this moment define her career? As the intensity of the clash subside, one thing is undeniable: this repercussion will have lasting consequences. For Caitlin Clark, the worries over her fitness remain uncertain. Can she continue to have much impact on the league after such a vicious hit? Or will this incident slow down her meteoric rise? And for DiJonai Carrington, her career hangs in the balance. Will the league go ahead to suspend her? Or will she escape with just a warning?
She has been heavily criticized. Well, that is all about to change because Indiana Fever rookie Caitlin Clark is taking none of that anymore because she just sent a serious warning to the WNBA. Join me as I walk you through why Caitlin Clark just sent the WNBA a...
The WNBA has yet to make a final ruling, and fans everywhere are in anticipation with bated breath. One thing is for sure, this moment, this game, will be talked about for years to come. And whether you side with Carrington or Clark, the controversy is far from over.